Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Wanderers Way podcast, the official Bolton Wanderers podcast in association with our good friends at iHeat, with myself, Derek Clark, alongside Super John McGinley as ever. How goes it, John?
Very well, thanks, Derek. Looking forward to speaking to my good pal here and fellow striker.
Yes. We've got Jón Daði Böðvarsson joins us all the way from Iceland. Jón Daði, thank you very much for coming on. How are you?
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'm good, thank you. Just getting used to the cold back home and still kind of settling in again. But yeah, everything's good.
Yeah, of course, you're back in your hometown, isn't it? Selfoss at the moment. How's life back home?
Yeah, it's been good. I'm back home to my hometown club. It's been a bit of a change, really, in my routine. I'm training in the afternoons now and stuff like that. But it's been really good coming back home, and we're still kind of settling in as a family, which is strange because you're coming back home to your home country. Yeah. But obviously, when you've been living abroad for like 13, 14 years, I think it's normal to, it takes a little time.
See, going back home, Jón, was it? How did you come to the decision? Because, I mean, personally, I think you've still got a lot to offer over here, and to see you going back home was a little bit of a surprise to me.
Yeah, no, you're not the only one. Obviously, some people thought I was a bit, too young maybe to come back home. I'm only 33 years of age. And yeah, there is truth in it. I could have stayed for longer in England. I could have. Burton offered me another deal after the season finished there. But at the end of the day, it was more of a family-oriented thing. My little one, my 6-year-old, I kind of started feeling that it was affecting her a little bit because, when you get older in professional football, especially in England, you're lucky if you get 6 months contract or 1 year contract. So I was noticing in her, especially, it was a bit too stressful, and I kind of wanted my family to start settling in a bit more in Iceland and start the life there, especially for her. But also just for me, I think it was exciting to come back home to my home club because it's more just to be more than just playing football. Being on the pitch is also finding my next steps when my legs give in.
Yeah, yeah, let's get it. Of course, you started your career there. Do you see you sort of ending your playing career there? A nice sort of ending to what has been a really good time in the game?
Yeah, definitely. That was always my plan. When I started this journey, it was if I were to play in Iceland, it would be for my hometown club, regardless where they would be in the leagues. That was always kind of the thing I've envisioned, and it's been really enjoyable because the club is very excited having me back home, and they're also very keen on if I can share my experience a little bit in terms of if I can improve the environment a little bit more, even if it's just with small things, and raising the standards, and then also slowly and steadily might become coming into coaching a little bit, and they are holding my hand. They will be holding my hand a little bit to start with because it's a bit out of my comfort zone, but that's something I'm aiming to do slowly. So.
A little bit special though, Jón, to start your journey with your hometown club and be able to finish your journey there as well. That's a little bit special.
Yeah, no, it is. I think you would probably agree with me with it, John, is you only have one career and you want to do it the right way. And I think the sentimental side of football sometimes gets forgotten about, whether it's, somebody waves a contract in your face with a lot of numbers on it, and you think gut feeling is, well, is it right for me or not? And I kind of always wanted to, look back when my career is finished and think to myself, okay, I did it the way I wanted to do and the way it felt sentimental wise, and that's something it's important to me, and I'm very happy to be back home with my hometown club. So there's always this romance with it, which is nice as well.
Is it a different club now to what it was when you left a good few years ago, Jón?
Yeah, it is. The club, to be fair, has been struggling a bit through the years, and it's been like that in the history of the club, where it's been very much up and down the leagues. When I was there just before I left, that was maybe the highest we've ever been. We had a bit of a spell for like 4 years, 2009 and 12. Where we went up in the top division and then we relegated the next year, and then the next year we went back up and then we relegated again. And since then we kind of went down to the second highest division and been there for years, and then we're now below that second division. So it's very inconsistent, has been. So I'm very excited because it's a shame, because the club, even though it's a very small club in Iceland, the facilities there are really, really good, and the club has a lot to offer. All I think is just there's so many small things that the club can improve upon, and sometimes there's not a lot that needs to do to have a club be successful. So that's something that excites me.
Mm-hmm. I think moving back as well, Jón, like you said, it's not just in a playing capacity. You'll become a mentor to younger players that are going to seek your experience, and also I'm sure it's going to help the club in signing better young players as well, knowing they're going to come under your wing.
Yeah, and that's something that excites me a lot, especially if, coming into coaching, if, I don't know how far I want to go in that yet, because it's very early days, but what I like about that is exactly the young players, and sharing my experience and seeing a progress of a young player is something that excites me, if I can help it that way. And also I'm hoping that, me coming to the club, I can maybe get more young players into the club, whether it's a local player or just outside Selfoss. That's something that excites me, and I think for a young player, regardless of where the club is at the moment in the leagues, to play for Selfoss today is really good for you as a young player, because it has a lot to offer in terms of you improving as a young player.
And don't forget, you're an official ambassador for Bolton Wanderers in Iceland, by the way, as well. So when you do see any young talent and good talent, you know where you're going to point them towards.
Yeah, agent Jón will be with his eyes everywhere.
Good.
So you're going to do the coaching badges and that then, Jón, is that something that you're going to be looking to do?
Yeah, I think so. Not yet, because I kind of want to have a feel for it first, see where my interest is, because I don't, like, a lot of people get the coaching badges even though they don't know yet if they're interested, which I respect, but I kind of just want to have a feel for it first. And if I get that fire in my belly, then I'll go full force and getting those badges, definitely.
Apart from playing and coaching, do you have any other business interests in Iceland?
Outside football, you mean?
Yeah.
I like a lot of things in terms of investments, real estates and stuff like that. I like messing around with that a little bit. It's just something that interests me, and I get a little bit of an enjoyment out of that. So that's something outside football that I enjoy. And when I became a free agent after my time in Bolton, I was free agent for I think it was almost 5 months or something. That's something where, because I wasn't focusing on football at the moment, at that time, I was more focusing on that project. We have a little bit of a family, like, not business, but like investments. So I was full force in that with my wife during that, especially that time.
Yeah, super. Well, we wish you all the best with that. In terms of your footballing journey, Jón, of course, can you remember back when you first made your debut for Selfoss? And did you always have aspirations to be a professional footballer? Did you always think you were going to make it in the game?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I still remember my first game for Selfoss when I think it was 15. It was a cup game. I had my debut, and it wasn't until I was around that age, 15 to 16, 17, that I realized, okay, I might have what it takes to go all the way. but the funny thing is, normally for young players, they always aspire to be, professional football players. That's the holy grail, isn't it? When you're playing football. But for me, I never really gave it a thought, which is strange. But it was more like I just enjoyed the game so much, and I didn't come from a football environmental family, so they kind of like just like, where's Jón Daði? And it's like, oh, it's just outside somewhere playing football. They didn't really give it a thought, really, and never really paid attention to it, which for me it was fine, because you were just left alone and you just enjoyed the game. And then you kind of like, and then when you're 15, 16, that's when you start to realize, okay, people are starting to talk about you a little bit, and you start to realize, okay, I have something maybe here. And then when I was 20, I got to move to Norway, and that's where the journey started.
Yeah, and incidentally, it's the Viking, of course, who won the league. Won the league. They're going in the Champions League next season, I think. Vikings to Stavanger, am I right in thinking? What was your time like there?
Yeah, it was good. It was tough. It was a huge learning curve for me, because I was coming from Selfoss, which is a very small club. I was playing for like maybe 300 people max in the games. So there's also where it would have been good maybe to have a parent or someone, a mentor, that would teach you a little bit about football, if that makes sense. Because when I went to Norway, it was just very overwhelming. All of a sudden I'm dealing with, the pressure of football, professional football, the expectations and all that stuff that follows it, and playing in front of, for me, which was a lot to start with, was like 10, 12,000 people. It was overwhelming. So it took me like a year or 2 years, I would say, just to get into things. But during those 3 years I was there, I progressively got better and better with my mindset and also my game. And also, like, I came there on trial as well. I went there on trial from Iceland and did well. You got a week to prove yourself, and did well. And they signed me on peanuts, really. I don't know how I could offer milk and bread at the time, to be fair. But that was also a good thing, because the patience was extraordinary, because the club took a gamble, and they had patience with the rawness and the inconsistencies, which is normal for a young player. So that was probably one of the most important times in my career, because those 2-3 years was each year was such a big improvement. So it was a great time. And
I suppose just living away from home as well the first time is difficult, isn't it? And when you've got the added pressures of football on top of that.
Yeah, and then obviously you had the different language and culture. And fortunately, as soon as I learned Norwegian, it made things a bit easier to settle in. And then, just being an adult, which is it's one of the best things. I say that to English players a lot of times, because a lot of English players, young talent, they go to the National League to get experience. But I always say to them, be more open-minded to go maybe abroad, even though, because I think it will help you even more to grow as a person and into adulthood, because all of a sudden you're on your own. You have to cook your own food, and all that stuff. I still remember my first spaghetti bolognese, and it was terrible. It was horrific. But that's how it. It's such an important thing for young players to be open-minded to, get out of your comfort zone, and because that's what you need to do if you're gonna go far in football.
Make you grow up quickly.
Definitely, that's the word.
Yeah, you spent some time, of course, at Viking, and then you were off to Germany. Jón Daði, I mean, Kaiserslautern, a huge club in Germany. I mean, it was a big jump to go to Viking, but that would have been an even bigger jump going over there to Germany at that time.
Yeah, it was, but it was kind of an easier step, I think, because I already knew what I was going into after all these 3 years in Norway. And yeah, it was a short time. I was only there for 8 months. I signed a 2.5-year deal. What a club! It was a great club. The fan base is amazing. The history is great. We have had some great players through the years. Klose being one, Miroslav Klose, and So it was a big jump because expectations wise was if anything higher. But I was more ready, I think. It wasn't as tough a step to go into, and I was only there for 8 months. This is a period where things happen so quickly football wise, because I was there for 8 months, did relatively well, and then the Euros happened that summer, and that was obviously a huge success. So it was a bit of a whirlwind that time. It happened so quick, everything. So I would love to stay a bit longer in Germany, but at the same time, when England came into the picture, it was just a no-brainer, really. That's where I always wanted to go.
Yeah, the Euros certainly put a spotlight on not just yourself, but Iceland as a whole. Not only making it to the Euros in France, but beating England, which was some feat, and having a really good tournament. Jón Daði, can you remember, what's your sort of memories of that time? Is it like it was yesterday? Can you remember much of it?
Yeah, I remember a lot. It was obviously a huge success for us, for every player. I think for the majority of the players in that squad, it was life-changing for their careers. But we did really well, obviously, in the qualifiers before coming to the Euros. We were beating, like, confidence-wise. It was just a generation of players that don't come often, of a team, which probably happens everywhere. And then we went to the Euros, and obviously there wasn't a lot of expectations. Maybe people were just kind of happy to be there, the public. But then obviously it went way better than we thought it would be, and the confidence and everything, we thought we could beat everybody. And that was kind of the mentality of the team. We were just really hard to beat. The style of football wasn't the most attractive. I was probably defending outside my own box for all other games almost, and just running without the ball. But it was really effective, and we played to our strengths. And the England game, for example, it's funny because we were so close to play England. It was almost like fate or something, but we were almost so close to not play England because the last game in the group, we only needed a draw against Austria to qualify. So a draw meant if we would get a draw, we would play Croatia or something in 2 days' time or something. So recovery-wise, it wouldn't be the best. But because they needed to win, we scored the last-minute winner because they had all the players going forward. We scored the winner in the last second, which meant we would play England in like 3 or 4 days' time. And then the England game obviously happened, and that was, ridiculous. Just ridiculous. Strange game as well. And I think I always felt a bit sorry for the English players because, there was articles about me and a lot of players saying like I was a part-time gasoline station guy or something like that, a petrol station in the winter time or something, and one was still lived in these old Viking houses or some nonsense, and people were actually believing that stuff. Yeah. And but obviously the English player knew it was going to be a hard game because the way we play is horrible. And then obviously everything went our way, and it was a historic win, and just the tournament in general. When we came back from the tournament, you felt like you won the tournament. It was an incredible time. Yeah, it certainly was. I remember it vividly myself, just watching you boys in action. And I mean, the England game, do you think that was sort of, maybe stick it up in the dressing room, that you were written off just before you went into that game, that everyone was looking at that going, England, it's an easy win for them? Yeah, I think so. I think, Lagerbäck, Lars Lagerbäck, the Swedish coach, he was our manager at the time. And he was so good in motivating us. He was like kind of talking trash about England, like saying, "Oh, they're the most overrated team of all time" and stuff, which wasn't the case. But like he was kind of getting everybody amped up. And I think also what helped us is we got nothing to lose. And in football, when you got nothing to lose, normally things go quite well for you. So the pressure was massive on England. But it was funny because they had a penalty after like only 2 or 3 minutes, and Wayne Rooney scored. And I was thinking, it's going to be a mountain to climb now. And then like, I think 2 minutes later we scored like from a classic long throw in the box and equalized, and that kind of felt like the game changed from that point on. It was like a knockout blow or something for them, because it was almost like a Space Jam effect or some sort, where they were making passes where, you know, all over the places, and we just kind of smelled that, and you kind of took advantage of it, and it was great.
Yeah. I was going to mention as well, that's where the old the famous Thunderclap originated from, wasn't it? But was that a thing before we noticed it in the Euros? It just came to everyone's attention in that tournament.
Yeah, it was already a thing before the tournament. It was always after every game you would do that thing with the fans, with the Thunderclap.
Yeah.
And then obviously with the Euros it went even bigger and more viral.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think every club I've been into, they want me to do the clap, which can be a bit of a drag at times. But it was mainly if a game was not good enough or something, I kind of didn't want to do the clap. It had to be the right occasion. If we won the game or something, then we would do the clap, and it would be the least thing I'd do. It's no problem. I like connecting with the fans, and if the fans like it, I think it makes a certain bond, which is important in football. The fans and players are kind of together in it.
It's these type of things, Jón, that you miss, or you will miss when you stop playing, because you'll reminisce and you'll think back and you'll think, because the connection you've had, especially at this football club, was fantastic. Yeah. And you know what I mean? I still think to this day you're sadly missed. But no, it's these things, it's little things that stick in your mind, and that's one thing that followed you around.
Definitely, I think I felt it the most. I felt it with the other clubs as well. Don't get me wrong. With all due respect for the previous clubs I've been into, but Bolton was kind of different, and I actually made it a habit to go, on match days, to come almost like super early before report time, because I knew people were going to be, outside the stadium and want to talk to you or sign autographs or pictures or whatever it may be. I just want, I hate leaving people disappointed because and I feel like a lot of players take it for granted and can be at times a bit arrogant about it, which is a shame, because without the fans, you wouldn't be anything really. Because so for me, that's always a very important part. And obviously, I think about Bolton very fondly, because I wish I could have stayed for a longer time, and I would be lying if I would not say that when I left Bolton, I was disappointed. And during that time in Iceland for these months, it was tough mentally, because you didn't see it that way. You wanted to be a bit longer, and because I really liked it there, and I felt like I played my best game of football when I was on the pitch in Bolton. So it was kind of like, I know in football you it's a normal aspect of the game. You move on to different clubs, and you're lucky, especially as a centre forward, if you're more than 2 or 3 years, especially in the modern game, in a club. But Bolton was kind of different. I was like envisioning myself, I want to be there the whole, the rest of my career and see it out and then come back home. But it was earlier than I thought. And obviously there was a lot of factors. I got injuries and didn't get regular playing time on the pitch, and obviously the way it ended as well with the playoff final, it was just a shame. But that's that's in the past, and you kind of just like get on with it.
Yeah. I know it's in the past, Jón, but I felt whilst you were here, you were underused, really. You were underutilised. You know what I mean? You had a lot more to offer. I felt when you left the club, you still had unfinished business here. Do you know what I mean? I think you could still, there's no doubt in my mind, you were still performing on the pitch, and you had a lot to offer this football club. But like you said, things happen in football, and that's it. But the fans loved you, they still do to this day, and they always will. You're always going to be welcome back at this football club. That's the big thing.
No, I appreciate that. No, I really felt it at the time as well. The whole time I was there, it it was really like, I felt like home. You know, it felt really, really nice. And also just outside football, like just the school for the kids, you know, that my wife loved it there. It was her favorite place during my career to live in. And because I felt like the community as well was very welcoming and just normal, hardworking, honest people.
But I'll say this though, Jón, you say that, but it's a two-way street in the same breath, because you put yourself into the community and you made an effort to mix in the community, and the fans appreciated that as well, you know, because you put yourself out there and you spent the time with them, and they appreciate that, they really do.
Yeah. No, it was good.
Sometimes you just don't get the fairy tale endings in football, don't
No,
you? It's just the way
sadly
it goes.
that's the case, Derek. You know,
that's the thing. You always envision like leaving with the sunset, you know, in the back. But that's not in football. That's quite a rare thing, really. And I always say football is strangely like the career of a football player is like, I'd say 70% disappointment, and the other 30% make it worth it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's just
you're probably right there.
Constant perseverance and stuff like that, and being consistent in those tough times, which a football career is hard.
Yeah,
I think Jón, when you look at it, as you said, constant highs and lows, you know, and in your career you hope the highs outweigh the lows, you know, and I think if that's the case, you've had a good career. But you've got to expect the lows at some point, and it's how you get over them.
Yeah, definitely, and that's something I always try to teach, especially young players today. Well, not teach, but like share my experience as a player. How can you be mentally strong in times of where, you know, you have everybody has a period in the career where just things are just not working out, no matter how hard you work. And I think that separates the best players from players who won't get the success, is how long can they stay in that uncomfortable disappointment space, because eventually things will fall into your place if you keep going.
Before you joined Bolton, of course, you spent time, you came to England, Wolves brought you in. Did you enjoy your time there? You had spells at Wolves, Reading and Millwall, of course.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So Wolves, it was a bit of a strange time, Wolves. So when I was in Germany, Kenny Jackett called me. He was the manager then. And he was like a typical Englishman, just like, you're coming tomorrow, just come here straight away, sign it, we need you, and goodbye. Like, just straight away, no messing about. And then when I arrived and I had the contract in my hand, they had said to me, Kenny Jackett has been, I don't know whether he was sacked or left, I don't know, but he wasn't there anymore. And I was like, okay. Then this Italian guy called Walter Sänger,
famous goalie,
became the manager. And so, it didn't really matter to me. I signed the contract, and it was a huge move for me and my career. And that I only played the one season, and what a learning curve it was. Like, it was such a transitional period in Wolves and the club's history, I think, because the next year, obviously, Nuno takes over and just changed everything, and they had a massive success with that. But my time in that period, it was a lot of players signed, I think, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong, but and it was a very inconsistent. The club was it felt like it was kind of finding itself, like, where are we going here? Like, it was kind of a transitional period. And with that, I had, I think, 3 different managers or something in one season. Walter Sänger was let go. A really nice guy, though, you know, funny character, but I respect him. And then I think Paul Lambert took over. And then what happened then? And then I think at some point, Rob
Edwards was there for a short time, wasn't he?
Rob Edwards took over Walter Sänger, and then from Rob Edwards it was Paul Lambert. So it was a bit of a chaos, and we were in a relegation battle at that time, and it was my first stint in English football, and you know, I couldn't hit a barn door in that season. I just could not. I couldn't score, and it was like a curse almost. And through the whole season, it didn't work as well as I would have hoped for. But I think people maybe don't realize it was my first debut season in England. I had to get used to, you know, the speed of it and the physicality, and also just you know, as a young striker, just to learn it a bit as well. And then it was funny because I think I did quite well though, even though the goals were lacking. And I still sometimes get a few messages from people from Wolves today. And I would have loved to have the opportunity to stay longer. But obviously Nuno had different plans. He was just ruthless. And he wanted his own players, you know, the Portuguese players. And you basically told, like, we want you to move on, which is, you know, at the time as a young player, a naive player, I was like, what the hell? Like, what is this? Like, I didn't understand the culture and business side of, especially English football. You thought like, you don't think I'm good enough. That's not the case. It's just business and you know, different ideas. So from there on, I went to Reading, was there for 2.5 seasons. That was a really nice time. The club also there. It's funny that a lot of those periods.
Struggling with it.
Yeah, a lot of. There was a time where it's like, I wish I just could like at least be in a mid-table or something. every season I'm in a relegation battle. So it was a bit of a stressful time as well, and it's never comfortable being in a constant relegation battle. And but I was there for 2.5 years, did relatively well. It's okay, but had some good players and good people in Reading, really good staff, and Jaap Stam as a manager, really good manager. I think I want him to get back into the game. I don't think he has been managing for a while now. But you know, because it's funny, when I signed for Reading, they had just lost the playoff final to come into. And I was thinking, okay, yes, we're going to be in the playoff picture, and then it's a relegation battle, and it's just a disaster. And so unfortunately, I only got to work with Jaap Stam, you know, in a tough time.
Yeah.
But you could tell he's a really good manager. I really liked working with him. And then I went to Millwall, which was probably my least favorite time in football. Nothing against the club or nothing against the people there. It just didn't work out, and I didn't enjoy it there. I tried my hardest, and I was, you know, working hard every day, but it just didn't work out. And sometimes it's like that in football. You don't always have the answers why. It can be different factors, the way they play football, the style didn't maybe suit me. And I just don't think it was the right club for me, you know, as a player. And sometimes it's like that, you know, and I was kind of like, before signing Millwall, I had that gut feeling, you know, like, I don't know whether I want to do this. I'll be honest, like, but I ended up doing it, which was a learning curve, because you should follow your gut feeling. And it was a bit of a negative period in my career, unfortunately, which everyone probably can relate to who has been playing in the game.
You've been down there at one point, weren't you, John?
I had a similar situation, Jón. I signed for Millwall, and I was there for a period as well. And you know, I thought I enjoyed the club, I enjoyed the people at the club, I enjoyed my teammates there, but I just didn't like living in London. You know,
that was the same for me. I didn't like the chaos of it, and I just didn't like the environment. You know, sometimes as an individual, a human being, you just want to be in the right environment to be happy. And I wanna make it clear, I have nothing but respect for Millwall. Like, I'm not talking down on Millwall or anything like that. I have a huge amount of respect for the club itself, but it's just, it didn't fit me. And that sometimes it is that way in football.
Well, exactly the same, and I felt it was a case of, I didn't enjoy living in London. My wife and family didn't really enjoy living in London either. But the first time we'd ever lived in kind of a big city. You know, everywhere you travelled, the traffic, and it was just horrendous. It wasn't us.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. Everyone honking their horns and road rates everywhere. You don't know what you did wrong. And
So when Bolton come up, then is it a straight yes? Were you quite excited when the call get made to you?
Yeah, well, club-wise, I was like very excited because I knew about the history of Bolton. I'd followed the club, you know, since I was a young player, because in Iceland, Premier League is such a big, you know, that everyone watches the Premier League. And when I was growing up, Bolton was in the Prem, and the amount of Icelandic players who were there, obviously that was also an exciting factor as a young player. You know, Ider Johnson was there. He was my idol when I was a kid. He was like my era's Icelandic idol. And then you had Gudni there and Gretar Steinsson. And so I knew about the club, and that really excited me. But there was also another thing. Financially, it meant I would have to take 70% pay cut, which was a massive amount. And so you were thinking, okay. But in the end, I was just a bit miserable, and I just wanted to play regular football. So I just thought, I just made the jump, and as soon as I came there, you know, seeing the stadium on the day I'm signing, and just coming into Bolton, I just got this really nice feeling about it, and I was just really ready to go. It was my confidence at the time was a little bit. I'll be honest, was a little bit down. I think, you know, it took a little time I think it took me a few games just to get properly going in Bolton. But what helped me was the fans again, and the atmosphere and the community, you know, helped me get going again, because I hadn't been playing regularly for like almost 2 years. I was in and out with the squad or on the bench. So, and coming there, I was like all of a sudden getting more opportunity, and it took a little while to get that mojo again. And I think what helped me also was coming there to the club as an Icelandic player. I felt a bit of a healthy pressure in terms of, because I think almost every Icelandic player who's been to the club has done relatively well. So it was kind of like a healthy pressure. I think I was like, I need to perform here. Like I wanna, you know, I don't want to be, you know, poor. You know, but after 4 or 5 games, I just really did well and found myself again. I was, you know, expressing myself on the pitch and just enjoying, you know, it just completely in the moment. I thought like, oh, this is perfect. Like finally, like with all due respect to the previous clubs, I kind of like finally got into this place where things mean something, like it's working out. Not that it didn't work out previous clubs, you know, but I felt like, you know, I can, you know, get better and better and better here if I continue to in this environment.
Yeah, there's some things that are worth more than money, John, isn't there?
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, happiness, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and if your family come and settle quickly, as they did, Jón, you know, and you enjoy it in the community and everything else, that's worth more than anything. And
I was the happiest I'd ever been for like a few years.
Yeah.
All because, you know, you're playing regular football and you're enjoying you're enjoying yourself again, you know. Money is, it's good, obviously, as you know, for security and you know, your family, but at the end of the day, it's not everything. It's a cliche answer, but it is a fact.
Yeah. And also, like you said, there's a bit of a legacy, obviously, left by the previous Icelandic players, and you want to keep that going, don't you? And I think there was one you left off your list, Arnar Gunnlaugsson.
Yes, yeah.
Arnar had a great time here as well, you know, and you know, well thought of when he was here. But like you said, every Icelandic player that's been here has left his mark on this football club.
Yeah.
Including yourself.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I was, like I said, it was a healthy kind of pressure, because I remember saying to my wife, I need to perform here. Like almost every Icelandic players have been have like, you know, Gudni Bergsson, like a cult icon of some sort, and Goodney was always in contact with me. He's such a massive Bolton fan, Goodney, and he was always contacting me and seeing how, asking how it is, giving me words of encouragement, which is I really appreciate it. So just so you Bolton fans and people know, he's very much still a Bolton fan.
Oh, we know. Yeah, we had him on the podcast a wee while ago. He was actually here recently, wasn't he? Goodney?
He was over for a visit recently, Jon. He was in good shape, good form, and like you said, he always enjoys his visits back to the club.
Yeah,
he's a top guy. Of course, did well, but you're really unfortunate with injuries. Of course, at Bolton, we gutted. I mean, that was the season when you joined. We went down to Wembley and beat Plymouth in that Papa John's final. Were you gutted to miss that game, Jon?
Yeah, it was a shame to miss that playoff. No, the Papa John's final, because I kind of I played a lot of these games in the Papa John's, and then finally, I think I scored in the Portsmouth game, which got us into the semi-final, and then I missed the semi-final because of injuries and the final. So as a player, it's always like, you felt like, you don't deserve the medal or something, which is a bit of a nonsense. You contributed to the success, so you kind of always have to remind yourself of that. But I will admit, it was a bittersweet getting that medal when you didn't play in the final. And then obviously it was strange with my injuries and my period with Bolton, especially my last 2 seasons. I got a lot of these freakish injuries, and then all of a sudden there's flying about like me being injury prone, which as a player you hate that word, like hearing people saying that you're injury prone, because that's not a stamp you want to have. But the frustrating thing was a lot of these injuries were like, I would understand it was muscle injuries and stuff. It was like broke my nose, and then my ankle, I went to a header and landed on my ankle. So it's just strange, just luck wasn't at my side. And then you and you can also, even though personally I feel like I should have gotten a bit more of opportunities, I think every player can say that, and that's not me being arrogant or anything like that, but I would have wanted to have more opportunities, minutes-wise. And I think also, but I also understand like a certain aspect where, okay, a coach or a manager has this team, I've been injured for a while, and he's thinking, he's chasing match fitness, and I don't think I have time for that because I need to win this game and I need to get those 3 points. But if a player is important to you, you trust him to get into match fitness straight away as quickly as possible, and you get him match fit no matter what. And that's not a dig or anything at all. I respect the manager and his decision, but I think it's normal in football. You agree and disagree. And that's nothing personal.
No, you don't, Jon. But do you think possibly the way our tactics and the way we shaped up went against you a little bit at times?
Sometimes, yeah. There's a lot of factors. I also think we could have been more open-minded at times to change it up a bit. I think sometimes it was a bit of a one-way street, and we could struggle a little bit because sometimes at times we were a bit too obvious, and we could, mix it up a bit more. But that's my opinion. I think, especially now, I think it's really enjoyable. I'm still following the club a lot of, trying. I don't know where I can watch games because, in Iceland you can't watch League One. So maybe you could help me out with that. But obviously,
I've got a Wanderers TV pass.
Wanderers TV.
That's the place to go. Make him sort to be a pass.
Yeah, you need to sort me a pass.
Marcus is the man. Get in touch with Marcus. He's the boy who's
But obviously, I've still been following the club a lot, and it's exciting players like Kosier and Dubry, and then you have, the striker on loan.
Bursto.
Yes, exciting.
Yeah.
And And I think it's very enjoyable to see, because it seems like I feel like we're in the right direction. I don't want to, jinx it or anything, but I like the manager, the way he talks and how he comes his ideas across. And it feels like Bolton is, sometimes we struggled a little bit we had a few good results. We think we're there, and then boom, like we're disappointment. And, it was, very inconsistent at times. And that, it was such an frustrating when we didn't reach the automatics. And, of course I felt like it's there for the taking, but we didn't manage to do that. But I think the club's in a great spot now, and hopefully, you can, because there's a huge opportunity, I think, for Bolton to try to go to the automatics at least.
Without doubt, Jón. Yeah. And again, going back to it, I think you would enjoy playing in this style of football.
Yeah.
We're playing with wide men, lots of crosses going in the box, exciting stuff. And, as a striker, that's what you want. You want the balls coming in so you can attack them. And I think that would have suited you greatly.
Definitely, yeah. So as a striker, you want that, crosses all the time. And even if it doesn't fall for you, at least, this is a missed clearance or something. I feel like, I don't know why, sometimes I feel like modern game football, they tend to almost erase crosses out of the game and just playing football, 100% possession-based football. But I think personally the best football is where you mix it up a bit.
Well, I think now, Jón, I think the ideal, the number 9, the traditional number 9 kind of went out of fashion to an extent. And they're playing with false 9s, 10s, playing up front on their own, things like that. Yeah. And now the 9's coming back. Everybody's looking for a 9 now. Mm-hmm. So
that's why, like Haaland, for example, is such a breath of fresh air. Because there was a period where it's like, where are all the 9s, the proper like classic 9s? And then he came to the scene. He was kind of like saved it a little bit, because it was like kind of slowly getting out of the game.
Yeah.
But football for me, like, I think it's about strikers, like a lot of times, and exciting attack, not just strikers, but wingers or whatever you call it. Because what happens every season, when a new season, fans are always asking, like, what do you want? A new striker.
Yeah.
New striker. No matter how well the other striker did, we want another striker. And that's what football is about, I think, because you want the exciting players who score goals and make a difference. And so it's a good point, like you said, Jón, the way football has been a bit like the false 9s and all that stuff. It's just a myth, really. You still need like the classic center forward type players, in my opinion, because I think it makes the game a bit more exciting.
Mm-hmm. I think when you were here, Jón, and looking back at it, I was expecting to see you more involved, especially in away games. I thought as a team, we needed somebody as a proper 9 that would play with his back to goal and hold the ball up for us and let us get up the pitch. Mm-hmm. We found ourselves, again, especially away from home, we'd be playing and we'd be camped in our own half. We couldn't get out our own half at times because we didn't have that player to play into that would hold the ball up for us to allow us to move up the pitch.
Yeah, no, I agree. I hate to be that guy because I don't want to sound like a jerk or anything to, Everett or anything like that. No,
listen, it's opinions.
But it was a lot of times where I was, biting my tongue, on the sideline warming up, and I was like thinking, I could, at least put my body on the line or something, just to, even though I'm not saying I would have made a massive difference in holding the ball up all the time, but at least a little bit, like just to, because a lot of these away games we were under so much pressure, because the way we play, and you were maybe kicking a long ball to, with all due respect to Aaron Collins or something, which isn't really his game, and we just kept getting back pressure again and again and again. So it was tough to watch at times, and But I agree. Yeah, I would have wanted to, especially in those sort of games. I think it is a bit of my game. I like to drop a little bit and try to hold the ball up, release the pressure, and then get myself in the box. And that's kind of my game. I don't mind obviously possession-based football. I think I actually prefer that. But it doesn't mean I don't like mixing it up. But also, I think I can play both sides of it really. So yeah.
I think especially when you get to that final third, you want to be a little bit more. There's got to be more conviction in your play. You've got to be breaking lines. You've got to be getting crosses in the box. You've got to put things in the box for you to work off. And I felt at times, we over possession was for the sake of possession. At times we over possessed the ball, didn't we? Without a purpose.
Yeah, but that was kind of the identity at the time, and that's something I kind of disagree with, was the lack of crosses we made. But it wasn't the players' fault really. That's kind of what the style of play we were playing. It was, if you can, instead of making a cross, you should play, back, or as centre forward. It's so frustrating because you're getting into the perfect run, waiting for the cross, and then the guy chops back, and you're like, then it's even harder because the defenders are already there squeezing you like a sandwich, and the space, you destroy the space. But that's something definitely we could have definitely done more of, which is crosses.
And that's only from a striker's point of view. And don't get me wrong, we're not bashing Ian Evatt here. We're just saying, Ian gave us 4 good years here, and it was only that final year, obviously things started to change.
Yeah, and I think it's important also people that Ian Evatt, like, he was the one who brought me, one of those people that brought me here, and gave me. He should have given me a bit more minutes in the last 2 seasons than the first season, but he gave me that, like the first season at least, the half a season I had where I was getting more minutes, and I, made me fall back in love with football again a little bit, So.
And we had your former.
I don't want to bash, talk.
No.
Yeah, we had we had your former teammate Cameron Jerome on, remember? A wee while ago, and he said similar. He said maybe underutilised it at times at various points. But of course, when you left Bolton, that was you mentioned before you was quite sad to leave. You had a short spell at Wrexham, and then you helped Burton stay up last season. Jón, and remember when we were down at the game, the Bolton game, they brought you out to go and see the Bolton fans who were singing your name. Was that a nice moment for you?
Yeah, definitely. Especially how it was before I came to Burton, because I left Bolton. It was such a shame how it ended, really. Especially with the player final, and then I didn't get a new contract, and I was a free agent for like 5 months. So I will admit, I was a bit lost in that time in Iceland, because I felt like this is too early, to come back home and play football. I felt like I have still at least have more to give. And so I was kind of like, and strange football, like, when you get over your 30s, and especially if you've been injured for a while and you become a free agent, people, like, it doesn't matter what you did in the past. Clubs are very careful in how they're signing, and which was frustrating. And so, because even though you're a free agent, you can sign outside a window, clubs have already gotten most of what they need. So I was kind of looking at January. Okay, I'm just look for January and be patient, stay fit. But then out of the blue, Phil Parkinson called me in October and wanted me to come and sign a very short-term deal, like only 3 months. And I was thinking, this, what's the worst that can happen? Of course, like, I thought it was really exciting, and so I did that, and then it wasn't the most exciting time really football-wise for me, because I played I didn't really play much, get much minutes at my time at the club. Also, you have to realize, like, I hadn't played for months, game football, and patience is very little in professional football. So I got 1 game, I think, against Stockport or something, which was a really good side that season. And you know, I had a bit of an underwhelming performance, which is normally I hadn't played for weeks, now months, and the team lost, and I didn't really get an opportunity again after that. But also you have to realize Wrexham today, I think they had like 8 centre forwards. Paul Mullin and Ollie Palmer, and who already had a lot of credit in the club's how do you say, with their own time there. Nothing against them, but I didn't really get a sniff there. But what Wrexham did, and I'm very thankful for, and Phil Parkinson especially, he made me get back properly football fit, and I was training in a good environment. You know, the club and trainings were really good. You know, I was still getting minutes, even like not in the league, but like at least in what's it called, like Papa John's, what's it called today?
EFL trophy, the Virtue Trophy it's called now.
You know, at least it was good for me though to get match fit, and so when my time finished in Wrexham, I was kind of like, what do I want to do? And Burton really interested, and they were calling me a lot of times, and my agent was on me about it endlessly. But I think also, you know, looking at the table at the time, and when Burton, they were like rock bottom, 12 points away from safety, I think. And I was thinking, Jesus, like this is going to be such a negative environment. It's going to be so tough. I'm not sure about this. And then I think my father basically just told me, you do it now. Like I was talking to him. I sometimes talk to my father if I'm unsure, but he was like, what's there to lose? Just go there, and you know, if it goes all sideways, then all right. You know, there's nothing you could have done about it. And then and Gary Bowyer, who's the manager there, brilliant man, by the way.
Very good manager.
Yeah, great guy.
Very underrated, I would say, Jón.
Underrated, yeah. He's such a. When I came there, I was so surprised because he'd been there for a few weeks. The club was still kind of struggling. I'd been there for a few weeks, but then it was so much better than I thought, and progressively just climbed up the table. I think when I came, we won 3 in a row. We've been unbeaten 5-6 games or something. And all of a sudden, we're and at the end of this season, we managed to survive remarkably. And I think Gary Bowyer told us, like, which was very true, is if it would have been any other club than Burton, it would have been talked more about, much more. You know, because what we did, what the club achieved, what we did achieve was ridiculous. Looking back, where the club was in the league, and I was also just playing really well because I was getting minutes and the trust, and but Gary Bowyer, breath of fresh air as an English manager. I like his approach. You know, he doesn't have a lot of managers. Sometimes have a lot of this fear factor going about them. You know, and he was more calm, almost like a teacher, if that makes sense. But has his standards, and he was really good in motivating the players, getting players to open up a bit. You know, personally, like in meetings, sharing your stories. So the bond was really, really strong in the squad, and I think that's probably one of the key reasons why we managed to survive in the end. And I think also Gary Bowyer, which was good, he was kind of how to say, like getting out of me, like like wanting me to share my experience a bit more with the young players, which no manager had really done before. He was kind of like, get yourself out there and talk to the young players. And there was a center forward there called Roman Burrell, who's now in QPR, doing really well. And I was kind of just like enjoying working with him because we were playing 2 up front. I was really enjoying all of a sudden with that side of it, which no manager had really encouraged me to do. But he was encouraging me to like getting into that role a little bit, to sharing my experience and help the young players a little bit. And then all of a sudden I'm seeing his progress, Roman Burrell's progress, and it's really enjoyable because you think, I'm having a positive effect just by guiding a little bit. Yeah. So it was a really, and the way it ended in Burton, they offered me a new deal, but I kind of like I said earlier, like with my family, it was enough for me, and I wanted to end it the way it ended. It was a perfect ending, and just I look back now with no regrets. I'm really happy how my professional career ended, and that's something I'll never forget. And it was such a pleasant surprise at that time in Burton. I'm really fond of that club.
Yeah, they're doing well this season.
They've
They're
done
up
really
to
well.
12th.
Yeah, they've done really well. Recently, they're on a great run. They've had some big results as well, and against us, they had a big result.
Yeah.
So, no, they've done well. Good. Like you said, he deserves it. I think Gary Bowyer is a top manager. He really is. And, you know, not just that, Jón, he's a good person.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
He's a good person.
Yeah, because, like, I agree with that. He's such a fantastic person. And remember that day when Bolton were playing Burton at the Pirelli Stadium, when I came and thanking the fans? He was the one who was, because he knew, he came to me and he said to me, can you come with me? Can you come to me? Because he always comes before the game onto the pitch and claps the fans. Yeah. So he said to me, like, do you want to come with me and you can clap the Bolton fans too, because I know how it didn't end the way you wanted to. And I was like, wow, yeah, I'd love that. But then at the same time I was thinking, you have that bit of imposter syndrome or something, like, should I do that or not? But yeah, he made me do it, and it was a great moment. I really appreciated that.
Good.
Yeah, it showed you how much that the fans really still hold Jón dear to their hearts. Well, it's been great having you on, Jón. It's been fantastic hearing about your time in the game. We wish you all the very best with Selfoss, and perhaps your coaching aspirations. We might see you back here maybe one day in the dugout.
You never know. Never say no. You never say never. No.
Well, Jón, thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate it as ever, and thanks for what you did for Bolton Wanderers Football Club.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Let's stay in touch.
Wanderers Way, the official podcast of Bolton Wanderers Football Club in association with iHeat.